If you've ever felt your stomach drop so hard it's like gravity suddenly got personal, you'll understand why I didn't argue. I didn't throw a fit. I didn't ask for explanations. I didn't try to work through it. I just stood up, collected my keys, and walked away from the most expensive lesson I never asked to learn. Before we jump in, quick favor. If you like stories where someone finally chooses self-respect over second chances, tap subscribe and drop a like. It helps more than you think. Now here's what happened. The rental car's digital clock glowed 6:41 p.m. on the dot, and my hands were sweating around the steering wheel like it was trying to escape me. On the passenger seat sat a small paper bag from my mother's favorite bakery, warm cinnamon rolls, still fogging the plastic window. I'd bought them as a peace offering, not because anyone was mad, but because I wanted tonight to feel ceremonial, like a chapter turning. Beside me, Raina adjusted her earrings in the mirror, then immediately went back to her phone. Scroll, pause, scroll, pause. Her face stayed blank, like she was reading terms and conditions for a life she didn't plan on committing to. "You okay?" I asked. She murmured, "Just catching up." I waited for the follow-up, some small touch, a look, anything that said we were a team walking into this together. It didn't come. I told myself I was imagining it. Raina had always been a little restless. She'd call it curious. Her friends called it unsettled. I called it ambitious because it sounded nicer and because I loved her. My parents lived in a brick house at the edge of town, the kind of place that smelled like laundry detergent and old wood and dinners that took all afternoon. My father, Grant, was the quiet type. He said little, but when he did, the room listened. My mom, Nina, was sunlight in human form. She loved fiercely and worried loudly. They'd met Raina once before, briefly, at my niece's birthday party. Tonight was the real test. An actual dinner, an actual conversation, an actual "where is this going?" moment. I parked in the driveway. Raina finally put her phone away with a sigh like I'd asked her to finish homework. "Ready?" I said. "Yeah," she said too quickly. "Let's do it." The porch light flickered like it always did, stubborn and imperfect. Mom opened the door before we even knocked. "There you are," she said, pulling me into a hug so tight my ribs complained. Then she stepped back and smiled at Raina with a genuine warmth that made me feel proud. "Hi, sweetheart. Come in. Oh, you look gorgeous. That color was made for you." "Thank you," Raina said, turning on the charm like a switch. She handed over the bakery bag. "Evan said you like these." My mother beamed. "You remembered." My father appeared behind her, wiping his hands on a kitchen towel. He shook my hand, then offered Raina a polite nod and a firm handshake. "Good to see you again," he said. "Likewise," Raina replied, bright and smooth. The house hummed with familiar sounds. The oven fan, a distant radio, my mom's bracelets clinking as she moved. The dining table was set with the good plates, the ones that only came out for holidays and important guests. I tried not to read into that too much. Dinner was lemon herb salmon with roasted vegetables and a ridiculous amount of garlic bread. Mom poured sparkling water into fancy glasses like it was champagne. Dad made one dry joke. We laughed. It felt normal. It felt safe. And because it felt safe, I let myself imagine the next step again. Not loudly, not desperately, just quietly, like a plan you keep folded in your pocket. I'd rehearsed a sentence all week, not a proposal, just a door cracked open. Something like, "We've been doing this a while. I'd like us to build a home, not just share weekends." I didn't know my pocket plan was about to catch fire. Halfway through dinner, my mother leaned forward with that gentle curiosity that only mothers have. The kind that feels like love even when it's nosy. "So," she said, smiling at Raina, "tell me something if you don't mind. What are you two thinking for the future? You seem settled." My heart bumped against my ribs. That was it. That was the opening. Under the table, Raina's hand slipped onto my knee. Her nails were freshly done, the color a soft pink that looked innocent. I took it as a sign. A private, we're okay. I opened my mouth to speak. Raina beat me to it. "Oh, Nina," she said with a laugh that sounded light but landed heavy. "That's such a sweet question." She took a sip of water like she was choosing her words carefully. "Evan is, honestly, one of the best men I've ever met," she began. "He's steady. He's thoughtful. He shows up. I mean, he's practically rare these days." My mother's smile widened. My father's posture softened. I felt my chest loosen. Then Raina tilted her head and added, "But I'm still figuring out what I want long term." The air changed, not dramatically. No thunder, no shattered glass. Just a subtle temperature drop, like someone had opened a window in winter. "I've always told myself I wouldn't lock myself into one path too early," she continued, still smiling, still calm. "I'm not saying I'm leaving or anything. I'm just keeping my options open, exploring what fits, exploring. Options. Open." The words floated above the table like a bad smell nobody wanted to acknowledge. My mother blinked, smile trembling at the edges, confused in that honest way people get when they're hearing something they didn't prepare for. My father stopped chewing. I stared at my plate. A flake of salmon clung to my fork like it didn't want to go down either. Raina's hand stayed on my knee, warm and casual, as if what she'd just said was completely normal. As if I were a nice apartment she liked living in while she toured houses on the weekend. She looked at my parents and added, "I'm sure you understand. People change. Life is big. It's smart to stay open, right?" My mother's mouth opened slightly, then closed. My father's eyes narrowed, not in anger. Something colder. Recognition. Like he'd just seen a pattern he hoped I'd never meet. I didn't feel rage. I felt clean. Like something painful had finally snapped into focus. Like a blurry photo suddenly sharpening into the truth. Raina slid her hand from my knee to my thigh and squeezed, like she was reassuring me. Like we were sharing a secret joke. Like I was supposed to be grateful for her honesty. I gently moved her hand away. The motion was quiet, but it made a sound inside me anyway. I set my napkin on the table. I pushed my chair back. The wooden legs scraped the floor with a loud, final screech that made everyone freeze. I stood. "We should head out," I said. My voice didn't shake. It wasn't loud. It was the voice you use when you're announcing the weather. Raina stared up at me, blinking like she didn't understand the language. "What? Evan, what are you doing?" "We're leaving," I repeated. My mother's eyes flicked between us, wide and glassy. My father didn't move, but his jaw clenched. He gave me a small nod, barely visible, like a quiet permission to protect myself. Raina laughed once, short and nervous. "Are you serious?" It was a conversation. I walked around the table, grabbed her purse from the chair and handed it to her. Not aggressively, not dramatically, just efficiently. "Thank you for dinner," I said to my parents, and my throat tightened for half a second. It was incredible. "Love you." My mother stood halfway, like she wanted to stop me and hug me at the same time. My father said nothing, but his eyes held something steady. Pride, maybe, or sorrow, or both. Raina stood, still confused, then followed me out because she didn't have another script ready. Outside, the night air was cold enough to feel honest. We walked to the car in silence. I unlocked it. We got in. For a full minute, the only sound was my breathing and the soft tick of the cooling engine in my parents' driveway. Then Raina exploded. "What was that?" she demanded. "You just yanked me out like I'm some kind of criminal?" I turned the key. The engine started. I pulled out slowly. "You called me an option at my parents' dinner table," I said. "I did not," she snapped. I said I'm exploring. It's not the same. It is the same, I replied. You just used better packaging. Raina threw her hands up. Oh my God, you're so sensitive. I was being real. Isn't real what you always claim you want? I didn't answer right away. The streetlights slid over the windshield like slow-moving bars. I want real, I said finally. But I also want respect. And you didn't offer that tonight. She scoffed. Respect? I'm dating you, aren't I? I'm here. You're here, I repeated. But you're not in it. She leaned back, crossed her arms, and tried a different tone. Softer, persuasive. Evan, listen. You're amazing. You're stable. You're safe. That's a good thing. I'm not insulting you. Safe isn't a compliment when you say it like a warning, I said. You're twisting my words. No, I said, watching the road. I'm hearing them. We drove in silence for a while. Raina kept glancing at me, waiting for me to panic, to plead, to argue. She wanted emotion, something she could steer. I gave her none. When we reached her building, I parked, put the car in neutral, then in park. I turned off the engine. The sudden quiet felt like a locked door. Raina stared at the dashboard as if the numbers might negotiate for her. Okay, she said, voice smaller now. So, what, you're breaking up with me over a dinner conversation? I looked at her. I'm ending it because you showed my parents, and me, that you think of me as temporary, I said. Her eyes flashed. That's not fair, it's accurate. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Then she tried again, softer. Can we talk about this tomorrow? You're being intense. I got out of the car and walked around to open her door. A final act of politeness, not affection. She stepped out, hugging her purse to her chest like armor. At the entrance, she turned back. Her expression shifted into something close to fear. Evan, she said quietly. I didn't mean it like that. I nodded once. Raina, I said, keeping my voice calm. You said what you said in the safest room you could say it in, my parents' home, because you thought I'd swallow it, because you thought I'd be too polite to make it uncomfortable. She looked down. I'm not going to be that polite anymore, I said. She lifted her head, eyes glossy. So you're just done? I stepped back, creating distance on purpose. You wanted to stay open, I said. You're open now. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't watch her go inside. I didn't wait for her to cry. I drove home with the windows cracked and the cold air burning the last of my denial out of the car. The first thing I noticed when I entered my apartment was how quiet it was. Not lonely quiet, just unclaimed. For months, that space had felt like a waiting room for the version of my life that included her. Now it felt like mine again. I didn't drink. I didn't rage text. I didn't call my friends and announce an emergency. I opened my phone, went to her contact, and stared at her photo. Her laughing on a beach, sun on her hair, the kind of moment that used to feel like proof. Now it felt like advertising. I blocked her number, then her social media, then the group chat I'd tolerated because she liked it, then the playlist she'd shared but mostly filled with songs about leaving people behind. It took 4 minutes. It felt like disinfecting a wound. It wasn't glamorous or dramatic, but it was necessary. My mom called around midnight. Evan? She whispered. Her voice carried that mother panic wrapped in politeness. I'm okay, I said. A pause. What she said. I know, I replied gently. Please don't replay it, not tonight. My mother's breath hitched. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I said. It's done. Come over tomorrow, she said quickly. I'll make pancakes. Your dad was… I'll come, I promised. But I'm okay. I wasn't okay in a joyful way. I was okay in a clean, determined way, a way that surprised even me. 6 months later, my mother's porch light still flickered. My parents still cooked too much food. My father still spoke in sentences that felt like advice even when he was just telling a story. But something had changed. Not them. Me. At dinner one night, my dad poured iced tea and said quietly, "I'm proud of you." I looked up, startled. "For what?" "For not begging someone to value you," he said simply. "Men do that more than they admit." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded and felt my throat tighten in a way that didn't hurt. A year after the night I walked out, I met someone at a friend's rooftop gathering. Her name was Tessa. She didn't have performative charm. She had a calm presence, like she didn't need the room to validate her. We talked about books, not goals, about hikes, not networking, about how people treat each other when nobody is watching. We started dating slowly. Not because I was afraid, because I didn't need speed to feel secure anymore. 4 months in, we went to a weekend farmer's market near the river. It was bright, loud, full of people holding flowers and bread and small, joyful things. Tessa held my hand like it was normal, not a message. That's when I saw Raina. She stood by a stall selling handmade candles, holding a coffee she wasn't drinking. Her hair looked done, her clothes expensive, but her eyes had that strained look of someone trying to keep a story together. She noticed me, then noticed Tessa, then noticed our hands. The calculation crossed her face so fast most people would miss it. She walked over. "Evan," she said, voice carefully light. "Wow." Hi, Raina," I said, polite. Her eyes flicked to Tessa. Tessa didn't squeeze my hand harder. She didn't step between us. She simply stayed, calm and present, like she belonged. "Is this?" Raina began. "This is Tessa," I said. "Tessa, this is someone I used to know." Tessa nodded with a small smile. "Nice to meet you." Raina's smile twitched. "Can we talk?" she asked me. "Like, just for a minute?" I shook my head. Her eyebrows lifted like I'd insulted her. "Seriously? After everything?" "After everything," I agreed. Her voice dropped. "I made mistakes. I didn't argue. I didn't debate her definition of mistakes. I simply looked at her and felt nothing. No anger, no longing, no urge to prove I was okay, just distance. "I hope you're doing better," I said honestly. "But I'm not available." Her eyes widened. "Not available? Evan, I'm not trying to—" "You don't have to try," I said, still calm. "Your life isn't my responsibility." Raina's mouth opened, then closed. Her face shifted into frustration, the old reflex when she couldn't steer the narrative. "You've changed," she snapped quietly. "You used to be softer." I nodded once. "I used to confuse softness with self-erasure," I said. "I don't anymore." Tessa gave my hand a gentle squeeze, a silent question. I turned toward her and my voice warmed immediately. "Hey," I said, "did you still want to check out the bread stand? The one with the rosemary loaf?" Tessa smiled. "Absolutely." We started walking away. Behind us, Raina said my name again, louder. I didn't turn. And that was the moment I realized something important. Walking away isn't always a dramatic scene. Sometimes it's just a quiet decision you refuse to undo. That night, back in my apartment, I made dinner while Tessa played music softly from her phone. Nothing grand, nothing cinematic. Just peace. I thought about that dinner table a year ago. The way my mother's smile had cracked. The way my father had gone still. The way Raina had held on to me while talking about options. And I didn't feel haunted. I felt grateful. Because if she hadn't said it out loud, if she hadn't revealed the truth in front of the people who raised me, I might still be trying to earn a commitment from someone who never planned to give it. Some people don't leave you with a goodbye. They leave you with clarity. And if you're smart, you take it. Thanks for listening. If you've ever had to walk away from being someone's maybe, tell me in the comments. What was your breaking point? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. After I blocked her number, a few attempts reached me through other channels, but I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, because every time I let her into my orbit, even through a phone screen, the old habit of managing her emotions tried to wake up, and I refused to be drafted back into that job. That winter, I built something literal. A small desk in my living room made from cheap wood and stubborn patience. I didn't do it because it was trendy. I did it because it was mine. When you've spent too long being someone's maybe, you forget how good it feels to create something that doesn't depend on anyone's approval. By spring, my routine had a rhythm. Work, gym, dinner, reading, sleep. Repeat. It was boring in the best way. Boring like a heartbeat. Boring like peace. When I told Tessa about it later, she listened without interrupting, then asked one simple question. Did you feel pulled? I thought for a moment. No, I said. I felt confirmed. Tessa nodded. Then you're doing it right. A few months later, I saw Raina once more in passing. She looked like she wanted to reopen the conversation, and I kept walking. And that's the part people don't say enough. You don't move on with a big speech. You move on with ordinary choices, made repeatedly, until the past stops feeling like unfinished business and starts feeling like a story you once lived. If someone ever tells you you're safe while they keep a hand on the doorknob, believe them. Then let the door close behind you.